ask is, can you give like why do you like Capitalize? It keeps coming up, and I'd love to know more about it.
I'm
And
sorry,
as you
George,
guys
say
know,
that
you
again.
guys have heard me say, hey, use Value Builder, use Value Opportunity Profile, use Core Value, and Capitalize just keeps coming up and up and up. So I'd love to get your perspective, and anyone who's had experience with it, chime in.
Sure. Is everybody on the call familiar with what Capitalize is?
No.
It's a software platform that that's for value acceleration and exit planning. It's meant for the business advisor who's going to actually drive that work, as opposed to a software tool that like the wealth manager would use to open up and then partner. I suppose it could happen that way. It's probably not designed for that.
Greg, it's exit plan specific?
It follows EPI's 5 stages of value.
Okay. And another quick question. Is there any common ownership there? I mean, I know that Craig and Chris have a long history together, and
No.
if you don't know or can't share. Okay.
No, Craig owns it.
Okay, cool.
Who's Craig?
So Craig West is the owner of the software platform Capitalize. He's also the owner of the largest exit and succession planning firm in Australia/Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So a smaller market, still substantial business, but it's not the same market as the US. And so over the past, 12 plus years that he's had that business, he was doing a lot of this stuff manually, or however we all kind of pieced together our internal, Excel sheets or what have you. And then eventually he turned it into software, and then they decided to spin that software outside of the company as its own standalone called Capitalize. So it's the same methodology and tools that he's been using internally to help 700 plus clients, business owners, successfully scale up and or sell or transition a business. And then tail end of last year, he started launching it outside of the company. And I was one of the early adopters of it. So what do I like about it? The level of analysis on it is, I think, incredible. There's both, financial, there's a deep financial analysis. So the Core Value doesn't do a financial analysis. Value Builder doesn't do a financial analysis. I don't know VOP. That one might.
It does not. To my most recent knowledge, it does not.
So, as an example, I had 5 clients sell last year, and 3 of them sold to a platform company that were sophisticated buyers. And the type of analysis that those buyers were doing, like WAC, that kind of stuff, in order to decide whether or not they're going to buy my clients, is the level of analysis on the financial side that Capitalize does. So even when I'm doing this with clients, years in advance, we don't need to make them CFOs or finance experts, right? They just need to understand that people with big checkbooks are going to do this kind of analysis, and they just need to understand how they stack up. They understand, how does it apply to me, and how do I stack up, so that they could be in a good position to working with their advisor group to fix that stuff to stack up better in the future. So I'd like that. I like the financial analysis. They do some pretty insightful things inside of there. The non-financial analysis, I think, is pretty good as well. So that's all the stuff that drives the multiples. And then they do evaluation as part of it. And they also do, their version of value potential. So, here's what the value is today. Here's what it would look like if you, had, if you were, improved your financials. Here's what it looked like if you're best in class financial. Here's what it looked like if, we can improve the multiples, aka attractiveness. Here's what it could look like if this was, if you could be positioned for a strategic transaction of some sort in the future. And so, all at the current revenue level, right? Just like, Core Value does. You do have a You do have a live financial analyst on the backside of that, so it's not just plug and chug. So you have some collaboration with a live financial analyst who, understands how to do a lot of that deep dive stuff and the valuation. And
So is the valuation done manually, do you think, Greg? Which is totally cool. I'm just curious.
I don't think so, but I don't know. I don't know it's not, because I know they have other tools that can do evaluation.
Okay, Greg,
Manual, so I would assume that this isn't manual.
Greg, just a quick question. Sorry. Is it a black box, or do you have access to some of the details? Because I'll tell you that.
But when you say a black box, are you talking about access to what?
Well, I come from a valuation background, so I tend not to like anything where I can't see where it's coming up with a number. Like, and I mean, it's my accounting background, my valuation background. So because a client asked me, okay, well, where'd you get that? And I said, well, it's the program. Like, that's not a good enough answer for me. So that's just why I tend to avoid those type of things. And no offense, George, sometimes I don't.
Oh, it's no offense.
I don't use core value.
I've had that comment at least 1,000 times. Oh yeah, I get it. It's actually arguably a shortcoming of core value software.
Like sometimes core value is like right on the money, but there's other situations where it's like it's just more complicated, and it's like it's not gonna, it just can't do it. So I tend to feel uncomfortable if I can't look at the details, because sometimes even if I looked at the details, I might give more context to what it's saying. Like, I might agree with it, or
so I don't have your same background as accounting and valuation. So, but I can tell you from my experience that when I've had some one-offs where it didn't make sense for them to, for example, I was had a startup opportunity, and given where they were, plugging it into the normal methodology inside of their software just didn't make sense. And so they did a manual one. So I think the answer to your question is yes, they probably, it's not like I have access to the backside of their software to see how they do their algorithm and they're weighting things. But I think that they would be pretty transparent with how they created the valuation.
Okay.
Since they have live analysts, that are part of that.
Yeah, I've used it as well. There's one calculation that it does that none of the other little tools that I have or have seen do, and that's they calculate the max growth rate that
the sustainable growth rate based on return on equity, which is pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah.
Well,
if I was building software, that would be in there.
Without changing their financial situation. They can go get money and they can grow faster, but without doing something like that.
Yeah,
that's how fast you can afford to grow.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that. That's
all.
And the
way that they outline it in the on that page, I think is pretty smart and clear too, right? You've got the balance sheet items down the left that equal to the one part of how they're doing the math. You've got the income statement items down the right, laid out nicely, and then showing how they get to that number. And if you're doing some work on the front end, like we are with the Freedom Point calculator, to understand kind of, well, what growth rate do we need? It's interesting to kind of tap into where are they, without changing, like you said, the financial situation. They could raise capital, they could raise debt, or they could take less money out personally, right? Or just have to fundamentally change the way they're running the business.
Now, does it do anything prescriptive, Greg, so if we say, hey, you're going to you need to increase value. Does it, from that point forward, does it do any, you should focus on, so core value and value builder and value opportunity profile, say work here, 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 and here. And does it do any of that?
They have a standard laundry list of a project plan that's pretty detailed. It includes, I like it because it includes the other people that I want to collaborate with. So rather than just be, this plan is all about me and business advising, I believe to do proper planning for the clients that I'm working with, that we need to make sure that their financial and their legal worlds are buttoned up as well.
Yeah.
And so
my answer to that question, George, is yes.
Go ahead, Steve, please.
Well, my answer is to your question is yes. They look at things similar to core value does, and makes us, say, hey, you're efficient here. You got too much owner involvement, or things like the usual.
Yeah. I mean, they have their algorithm of how they're, how they go through the deep dive and come up with scoring things, right? And have lots of scorecards that show you where you're strong and where you're weak. And then all of those are addressed throughout the course of that project plan. So I like the level of analysis, both on financial and non-financial. I'm happy with the valuation. Now, since I'm not a CPA or someone who does valuations, I'm also clear about what this is and what it isn't, right? So, this isn't meant for tax and legal. So my clients who are going down those roads right now, they're going to have to get a formal valuation to pass those, pass muster in those areas. And so, but from a planning perspective, I have a high level of confidence in where it is. Is it the exact number that a pro might do on each and every one? Probably not. Is it so far out of the realm that you would throw the whole thing out in the baby with the bathwater? Also probably not. So from what I need it for, I think it serves really well. Also, the ability to collaborate. The platform itself is built on newer tech because it's new, right? And they have their kind of project plan / Gantt chart, which you can, customize. You can move things around. I'm working with them. We're doing, as Cultivate's doing some joint stuff with them outside of Capitaliz, but because of that, we're also very close with them about, hey, what we like and what we don't like about the way the project plan works and things like that, and adding things to the roadmap to get it improved. But I can invite in the other professionals. I can invite in the obviously the client, anybody on the client team, and it becomes a place for communication. You can link out to Google Docs or whatever. You could upload PDFs or whatever type of docs, etc. So it becomes kind of like it's the pre-due diligence. It's just more collaborative. And so we're working on being able to assign and track responsibilities down to line items with date deadlines. So that if the CPA said they're going to be doing this project, but at the same time, the lawyer's doing this other project, and at the same time, the business advisor is doing this other project, everybody could be on the same page as far as where people are, updates, due dates, things like that, and be able to run reporting off of it as well. I think about it from an advisor standpoint. If I've got a bunch of clients going at once, I need to be able to stay organized with all the shit I got on my plate.
Yeah.
Or also going backwards in time to be able to succinctly remind clients of all the work that had been done, and in a compelling way. And then also for us, because we're a scaling business, then I also need it to be able to report a few levels down and roll stuff up.
Very cool. And can I just a couple of mechanical questions? And Craig and I have met. He gave me a demo himself. I have the report. I'm just guilty of not having, and I'm not positive he gave. I mean, it was 6-8 months ago, so I'm not. I mean, it may have evolved from there. I'd love to see a current report, and if one of you guys is willing to share, great. If not, I'll just email Craig. I'm sure he will. So what's the price point per month, and what does that include? Do you know? Are you getting it for free?
No.
No, wish I was.
So their standard model is you pay a $2,000 flat fee for the analyst work on the report. You charge whatever you want for that.
Okay.
And then it's $100 a month.
$100 a month. Yeah,
and
that makes
charge whatever you charge on that.
Yeah.
They are working on, and they haven't finalized it yet, some ways to kind of package that up into spread those costs out over time and package that up.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure
that
that's
there's-
easy to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So $100 a month is
Isn't it
funny.
a
That's
per
that's
client,
really interesting.
basis, Craig?
The $100 a month is, yeah.
Is
Well,
the
it's $100 a
2,000
month,
on a per
but
client?
it's. I was
Is
just
the
gonna say,
2,000 on a per client?
It's on a per report. So every
Per
time you
report.
want the analyst to, you want to go in and redo a deep dive.
It's $2,000.
A couple other things, David, some of the work is on the advisor, like Greg, or if I was doing it myself, because you do it the same way you would do evaluation. You have to go look at the financials and then do the add backs and provide that data, to the analyst in the back room. So
yeah,
from there, it's just a matter of what database they're using to.
well, I think there's a limited number of databases. I could probably guess what they're using, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's standard operating procedure.
Breaking it down, you're basically at $100 a month, plus support, and support is $2,000 a whack. Is what if I had to. Okay, cool. That makes huge sense.
Greg, my question is understanding the depth of work involved. So now we know core value a deep dive, but it doesn't do the financial analysis that Capitaliz does. How much work is involved, and how much in some ballpark can you charge for a project analysis? I just want to like to compare that to.
Yeah, so I think it's a similar. Well, when you say how much work is involved as for you, the advisor who's running it.
Let's look at a deep dive taking a few hours of total work to set up, complete the deep dive, generate a report, and communicate that back. Let's call it several hours to do that. Less than a day's total work end to end for a deep dive and a presentation. No other action after that, just that much. So that's the analysis part.
You could charge $5,000 to $10,000 all day long, and if it's a bigger, more complex, company, then you could charge more.
Yeah, they charge 10 to
They charge
20,
yeah,
depending on complexity. So
yeah.
it's
So
similar
it just
to a
depends on you. Yeah, how confident are you on asking for a large dollar amount? That's what it boils down to. I mean, that's the truth of it.
Yeah,
And also, and your business model too. Like for us, our business model is about the monthly recurring revenue. So, as we're charging $5,000 all day long on this, but we can usually get through that inside of a month or so, and then we spin them right into a monthly retainer. And that's really what we care about in our world is the monthly retainer. For all the reasons everybody on this call understands from a valuation standpoint. So for us, we're not necessarily looking to do massive flat fee projects as standalones. I'd rather, charge appropriately for whatever work's being done there, and then get them into an appropriate, MRR. And most of our clients are in the $3,000 to $5,000 a month, although we do have some that are much larger than that. They're just larger companies that will probably add more than one advisor on to get work done.
I would also say that aesthetics, as we all know, count for something, and it does produce a nice report.
Yeah.
And I could also tell you that the way that I've been doing it, deliver the workshop for the report. I don't send them the report. I'm not meeting with them belly to belly. I'm doing all via Zoom. And when I do that, I tell them to invite their CPA, financial planner, whoever else is on their kind of quote unquote trusted advisor team. And nothing but high marks from these folks.
Great.
Right. So the fit and finish of it, yeah, your packaging does matter, and it's there for that. The level of detail of analysis, we've got law firms, I've got wealth management firms, I've got CPA firms all wanting to partner with us. None of them are looking at work product and going, man, this seems weak.
Cool.
Greg, what is the website?
Capitaliz, just L-I-Z at the end.
Got to have a little thing.
Has to be
Yeah, it's
spelled.
getting the few people that have used it, and including the guys on you guys on this call, have like it. I'd like to get some experience with it.
Yeah, it's like if you think about like when we were there for the original, growth drive certification, and remember we had at least 1 or 2 workshops dedicated to, well, how would you create a project plan and a proposal? Right. And then we were broken into 2 groups and, two totally different approaches to it. And the one thing that I noted was the amount of labor that was going into figuring out how to do all of that. And even when Mary on one of these coffee clutches shared how she was selling, the $1,500 flat fee for the Discover and then spinning that up into the deep dive. But I saw her presentation, which was a very well put together, I think, based on PowerPoint, with lots of cutting and pasting of, charts and stuff it looked great, but the amount of time and effort it takes to pull that kind of shit together is tough,
Agree. Totally agree.
And I guess it depends on your model. So if you have a model where you charge a whole bunch of money per project and you've got plenty of margin in there for you to do that kind of work, or pay an assistant to do that kind of work and you give it the once over, that just doesn't scale for me.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
Craig's, his, in theory anyway, his motivation for doing this was to allow advisors to work at scale. Just for the reason that Greg just mentioned here is that you push a button and voila, there's your work product.
Yeah, and you've got the help of a live person on the backside to tweak it, customize it, go through it. I can tell you, I've reviewed them. They get it done. I review it. Then there are things I go through and say, we got to tweak. The way you guys did this, I don't like. Do it different. Or this particular report makes no sense given their fact set. Let's just eliminate it rather than spend an hour explaining why that's so funky.
Yep.
So stuff like that. So you can really drill down as much as you want to get a confidence level in what you're showing them.
Very cool. Thanks, Greg. Very, very cool. Yeah, I'm going to get an up-to-date report from Craig.
I know their typical stance on that is they don't like handing out the report. But I'd say reach out directly to Craig, and
that's what I'll do.
The buck stops with him.
Yeah.
But they do have, and I've got a version of it, a video walkthrough that details, a good 80% of the report.
Is that something that's on their website? I'll go look for it, man.
I can just put a link in the chat for you so you can check it out.
Oh, great. Thanks, man.
Let me just dig it up.
Appreciate it.
They're out of Cleveland, Ohio.
They're out of Australia, but
Out of Australia.
they're moving, or they're adding operations in the US.
And Cleveland is the EPI connection.
Okay.
Craig and Chris have worked together for a long time. So
They
Craig was
actually
doing-
went through EPI's SEPA program together before Craig bought it, or before Chris.
No, not Scott. Chris.
Chris is Chris Nelson.
No, Chris
Snyder.
Chris Snyder. There are 2 Chris Snyders in Cleveland. Make sure you have the right one. Chris Snyder bought EPI from Pete Chrisman, years ago, and then installed Scott as his day-to-day. And Chris does, he's still the thought leader, but he does a lot of M&A work as well, which is common in the space. And Chris is a smart mother. He's smart, hardworking.
He's an amazing speaker. I always love hearing him talk.
Yeah, the thing that he did was, maybe it was not so groundbreaking as in like the process itself, but he figured out a way to communicate how to bring exit planning into the present.
Mm-hmm.
Because back when I got credentialed through Pinnacle, like over a decade ago, it was all about the 100-page plan, right?
Mhm.
That was, let me give you a mountain of education on all the different options that you could potentially, get out of. Pay me 20, 30, 40 grand to do that. And then we'll try to pivot into some type of work. But there was a total disconnect in the industry. And most business owners had no desire to be spending that kind of money for that kind of, massive report that didn't really give them any value. And that's when, Chris came on the scene. That's what, EPI was just like everybody else at that time. And he revamped it with, a better process, but more important, I think just a better way of communicating the value around why it's just good business strategy. And that's why, I think he's made a total pivot in the way that the exit planning community operates, and why I personally do not have a problem using the term exit. Because I can go toe to toe with anybody, any business owner, and have them understand that, it's just good strategy. And if we do this right, we need to get your business, your personal life, your financial life all squared away. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And we're all going to exit at some point. So you can pretend that that's only about the end, or we can actually build a business that gives you what you want now and gets us to the promised land at some point in the future, hopefully on your terms and timeline. But the reason I think a lot of people are stuck with exit being a 4-letter word is because how the industry started, by all the transactional folks who were looking to, capture the money at the table, or soon thereafter the table, for assets under management. And anyways, so I love what Chris did there, and I think that's why EPI now is the hands down, in my opinion, the best program for exit planning.
Hey
Well,
guys, I apologize. I have to duck out. Keep going. This is a great conversation. Thank you.
George, grab the link in the chat. And for anybody else who wants to see more about the Capitaliz work product, there's a short video that explains it.
Thank you. Copy. Done. All right, guys. Thank you. Carry on. I just have to 10 o'clock medical consult. Goodbye.
Go.
All right, brother.
Bye. Thanks, man.